October is a busy month. It is a month where a lot of awareness are created. And among these awareness is pregnancy and infant loss. Today on the bench we have Grace, who's going to share with us her story of child loss, which is in relation with what you're going to look at, pregnancy and infant loss, and the effects of this in one's life. Karibu sana guys, I'm your host, Fancy. Hello Grace.
How are you?
Fine, thank you. How have you been?
I've been good.
Karibu sana kwenye show.
Thank you.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
So we are going to talk about pregnancy and infant loss. And you have had a journey in relation to this. Would you please take us through this journey?
So it's something that is very personal to me, and it's actually what made me to become a counseling psychologist. So it was like almost 6 years ago, and I was expectant. So you can imagine the expectations, the hopes that you have when you're expectant. And it was not my first pregnancy, it was the second one. My first was a twin pregnancy. So my expectations were the fact that I've carried another pregnancy, maybe the second one will be easier, especially if I'll not be carrying twins, because you know sometimes twins, taking care of two kids is exhausting. So I was very happy when I conceived and I walked that journey. Everything was okay. I went to clinics, everything was fine. The child was growing fine. It was one child, by the way, which was easier for me considering I'd carried a twin pregnancy. So I was very hopeful, very, you know, there is no one who prepares you when you're pregnant and you'll sit down and think that maybe you'll not hold your child. No one tells you, don't even
Want to think about
that.
You're just optimistic.
Yeah, you're just optimistic. I'll have my baby, Nini, life continues. So I carried the pregnancy. Everything was fine, actually. I was eating well. The child was growing well. So I remember when I was almost 37 weeks, and I went for the clinic, Kawaida clinic, and I was told that I need to do a scan, the scan that you do when you're almost due. So when I went for the scan, I remember that sonographer, I think they're called sonographers, he looked shocked.
After the scan.
You know, you can see the shock on someone when he's checking out your baby. I remember that face because I saw that same face when the first pregnancy, they saw it was twins. I saw the shock on that sonographer's face. So I was shocked and I asked him, what's happening? And he was like, no. I think he saw I got shocked. And he told me, no, you have excess amniotic fluid, but that's not a big deal. You just go and take the scan back to the gynecologist, and then he's going to advise you on the next step.
Could it be at this point he had already seen danger?
I think so. But I think due to the shock that I was in, because I was shocked. You know, there is a face that someone will make and they're looking at your body and you're like, I can't know what is happening. So he gave me the scan. I went back to the gynecologist. And I remember even the gynecologist, it's like he read me when I entered that room because I started by asking questions. I asked him, how come I'm being told that I have excess amniotic fluid? How is that even possible? Yet I've been coming for clinics, everything has been fine. I don't understand. And I think he just read the mood and he decided that this person, if I tell them the truth, they'll either shut down or they're not in a good space to take in what I have to say.
You were alone?
I was alone. I remember I was alone. My husband was not nearby. So he sat me down, he told me, let me see the scan. So he checked it out. He told me, yeah, you have excess amniotic fluid. But that, so I asked him why. You know, dear daktari, why do I have, and why is it now? And it was not there before. So I remember he started explaining to me, I don't know if it's the biology, He told me that when a child is in the womb, they will ingest the amniotic fluid and then they will urinate it. So that creates a balance. So he told me the fact that you have excess amniotic fluid can mean either the child has a problem with swallowing or the child might have a problem with urinating. And also the child might be just okay, because the statistics say that out of the many people, out of 10 who have excess amniotic fluid, only one will get a child who has a defect. So he told me, you're going to do this, just go home, you'll come back after a week. When I look later maybe at that situation, I think he saw that I was not in a good space to kind of understand what he was saying. So I remember I went back home, and then the week ended, I went back. So now that is when he started.
Did you share the news with your husband?
Yeah, I was so panicked. I remember he was not even around, and I called him and I was even crying. And he's like, what happened? You know, because we had talked, I had told him that I'm going for clinic. I told him, I don't know what is happening. I don't know if the baby is fine. I went for a scan. They told me I have excess amniotic fluid. I've never even had such a thing. I don't know what is happening. And I remember that was, you know, that is one of those things that you're not even prepared for. It was so, I think I called him, I called my mom, I called my sister, and I was in shock. So I went home and I waited for that week to lapse, and then I went back to hospital. So now that is when the doctor was trying to to explain to me how come it was not found before. He told me that mostly it's found out after 37 weeks, or maybe after the child is born, you find out the child has a defect. So he told me that the only thing that we can do now is to wait. I wait, I conceive, and then when I conceive, they'll now check the baby, whether the baby has any defect. So I had to wait. And I remember they had to schedule me for a cesarean, and I had to wait for, I think, 39 weeks. So I had like a few weeks to wait for. I went back home. I waited for the date that they had told me to go back to hospital now for the cesarean, and I went. And I remember there was not that anticipation of wanting to know. It's like you are in a limbo. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't even know if your child is going to be okay. You're now looking at a perspective where maybe you'll have a child who has a defect, which you never thought about. So it was something that I don't think any mother would wish to experience, to experience such a thing. So I went, I was booked for a CS, and I went, and I gave birth to a girl. She was called Nancy, and actually she was very okay. She cried, she was full term, she had, I think, 4.2 kgs, so she was taken to the nursery. So now that is where everything started. When she was taken to the nursery, I was called after now the anesthesia effects wore off. I was called and I was told to try and feed the baby. So when I fed the baby, she could not even feed. When you feed her, it's like she was choking. So she would
belch, kind of belching?
No, like vomiting.
Oh, removing it
out. It was not like nika haifiki, tunampe anatoa. So they reached a point, they told me to stop giving her milk. So they started feeding her with IVs. So after that, during that period, I think they kind of noticed that she had a problem. And they told me now to find out where the problem is, they have to do an X-ray. So they did it, and they found that the esophagus, the connection between the mouth and the stomach, it had a gap. So that is why she could not feed, because even as you fed, it could not reach the stomach.
So it was not possible to swallow.
It was not possible to swallow. And that was, I cannot even describe the feeling. It was devastating, to say the least, because all through, it does not matter what the doctor says, what they say. And actually, the gynecologist had encouraged me so much by telling me that 1 out of 10. So I was, now I was
cannot
consoling.
be among the one.
I was consoling myself that I'll be among the 9.
Yeah.
I'll not be among the 1. So now reality has checked in, and I'm the one. I'm the 1 out of 10. And I think that was, first of all, a shock. It was, I think I was just there. You don't even know how to react. And
It was a confusing moment for
you. Because you're still not okay. You've just given birth. And then on top of that, you've been given another shocking news. So I remember now they told me that now that case is surgery needed to be done. So I was referred to Kenyatta, KNH, and I was given a transfer, and then I went to Kenyatta.
Where were you initially?
The level 5.
Okay.
Yeah. So they told me that that surgery, they don't do it here. I can either go to Kenyatta, or I can't remember, they said, I think Gertrude's. Okay. So I chose Kenyatta. I was given a referral, and I went to Kenyatta. So even there, when they took the pictures, you could see when they take that, you can see that gap. Unaonyeshwa hii ndio mdomo, hii njia inafaa kuwa hivi, so there was that gap. And they told me that she has to go for surgery. And that is a child who was even, I think at that time, by the time I was being given a transfer to Kenyatta, she was like 14 days.
You have not healed?
Yeah.
Here is a sick child.
Exactly. And you're being told she needs to go for surgery.
It must have been tough.
It was. I got her at 4.2. By the time I think we were going there, she was 3 point something.
Oh,
because
God.
She's not feeding. So she was dropping the weight. And that was the only solution. The only solution was surgery. And I remember the doctors telling me that it's a fragile surgery, considering it's a small child. So I remember it was like a Sunday, I think. So they told me like, maybe tomorrow, it's the day that we're going to take her to surgery. So we slept that day. I think during the night we go to see the child. I think after every, I can't remember if it was after every 2 hours or 3 hours, we used to go and check the babies. So she was fine throughout. And then in the morning, I remember it was around 9. That's the Monday morning when she was supposed to be taken for surgery. When I went, she was not where she was sleeping. Those, in
they're lined up.
Yeah. So I remember she used to be at the door. So when I reached the door, I saw another child and another one. And I was like,
where is my baby?
Where is my baby? And I remember that my first instinct was to run. Because I remember I reached the door, I looked, and then I started going back.
She's not there.
Yeah, I started going back. But there was a nurse who was seated just directly to the door. So he saw me. It was a male nurse. He saw me and called me and asked me, where are you going? I told me, I think I was just, it's like I knew what had happened. I told him, I've not seen my baby. I was just going back to the ward. And he asked me to do what? I just kept quiet because I didn't even have an answer for that. So he told me, first of all, have a seat. I sat down. He asked me, did you know what your child had, the problems that she had? I told him, yes, I had been told this and this. I explained. So he told me that she had, it's like her body shut down. It's like system shut down, kabisa. They tried to resuscitate her. They could not. So she had passed.
Oh no.
And I remember I told him, I think I was just numb because I told him it's okay. And I think now when I look back, I can understand why he was actually questioning me, because you see, you do not tell someone that they've lost their child and then they
they're
tell
like,
you
it's okay.
it's okay. So he asked me, have you understood what I've said? I said, yeah, I've understood. I've understood that my daughter has passed on. You tried to resuscitate her, but she passed on. And he asked me, I remember the words he asked me to this day, and you're not going to cry? I told him, no, I'm not going to cry, because since the day she was born and I was told that she has a problem, I've been crying all through. So now I feel like I don't have any tears to cry. And he was like, no, you cannot tell me that you don't have
zero
any
tears.
And I remember that guy told me that you're going to sit here mpaka ulie. So you can imagine.
He knows the importance of
I
crying.
know, I think so. It was like I was just there. So we talked, he probed me, and I remember eventually I cried. And when he saw me crying, he told me, now you can go. Me, I've done my work. And that was the start of a journey which I think I never thought I'd walk. You see statistics of women losing their children, and you're like, that is the statistic. But now I'm the statistic.
Yeah, it's different.
It's very different. You know, you'll say, hey, for every 4 children born, one child dies.
But until
now
you are on the side of one dying.
Yeah, now I'm that one who dies. I'm there.
At this point, I am asking myself, when the baby developed the complication now, and even the baby, you know, it reaches a point now she has passed, why didn't they call you? Why didn't they call you? Why did they have to wait for you to go and find out?
I think even 30 minutes had not passed.
It was just almost immediately.
It was almost immediately. I think even what they did, it's like, because, you know, when you're given the certificate, you can see the time that child passed. I think what they did is that now they removed that body, because it's like they saw maybe it will be even worse to see her.
To see
her. Yeah, because when we checked the time, the difference was like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. So I think that's why they chose to just wait, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have a support system at that time?
Yeah, I did. I remember that time when I was transferred to Kenyatta, my husband was working in Langata. Okay. So he used to come at lunchtime, and also the visiting hours for also my mom, my sister, my mother-in-law.
Yeah.
I actually had a very big support system. My pastors, people used to just, even those who didn't come, they used to call me. They asked me what's happening, kunaenda aje, umeambiwa aje. So I actually had a good support system, a really good one, and I thank God for that. So after that, now I was discharged. And now I think I started that journey of someone who has lost a child.
Grieving.
The grieving started. And you know, grieving for a child is very, very funny, because now when you go back and then people see you, the first question they ask you is,
ako wapi mtoto?
Ulipewa exactly. Ako wapi mtoto?
Ulipata kijana ama
msichana, you know.
Yeah.
And that would just remind you that you have nothing to show for your scars. And it was hard. But funny enough, I didn't lie. I used to just tell them the truth. I was given a girl, but unfortunately she passed on. And it was hard. I thought I was okay at first because I would laugh, people would come, I would tell them the story. I guess most people assumed I was fine, but I think deep down I was not. And whenever all the people left and I was left alone with my thoughts, now that is the time now I would feel that crushing feeling. That is the time now I would feel like I cannot even breathe. But when I was around people, in fact, I remember people used to say that I'm strong. Hey, you're strong.
That is one of the things I never want to hear being told anymore. Because it's basically mean you know how to take pain, and I think I want to be called weak going forward because it's hard.
It is.
It is hard, and maybe the people we call strong don't know how to express pain. I think it's a bad weakness. Yeah.
And people, I think it's just innate. It's just in us. Mostly when people are going through, those crushing emotions, we'll just want, when they say they are okay, we don't want to dig deeper because we want that comfort zone of they are fine. So because, when you ask someone, are you sure you're okay? And then they tell you, no, now you'll be stranded now.
And now they have built a wall.
How am I going now to tell this person? What am I going to tell this person?
Exactly.
So it was very few people who actually noticed I was not fine. And I remember there was a pastor who told my husband that your wife is not okay and you're going to see it soon. So when you're grieving, at first you have a lot of people who are around, you have people coming, but then maybe like few months down the line, you are left alone. Now, and that's just how it is. So now you are left alone. And then now, that is like when the reality started hitting me. I don't have a child. I had all those hopes and expectations. I have nothing to show for it. And I think that is when I actually saw why grieving for a child, I don't know if it is in African society, it is hard.
It's blashed off.
Exactly. People will just minimize your pain. And it's like they give you a timeline. They expect maybe by 3 months you'll be okay. So even after that, when you still talk about your child, they'll be like, when you are still there.
You need to move on.
Yeah. I used to hate that word, that you need to move on. I remember there is a person I asked, you want me to move on? How do I even move on?
Where do I start?
I carried my child. I had a connection with her. I had all the hopes. Even if I was told she was sick, I was still hopeful that she'll be fine. How do I even move on? And I think that is, we are told that when you go through hardships, that is when you start to see the other side of the coin. Because before that, you are on that other side, but now you are there. You get to experience some of the things that grieving mothers are told. Some of the things that there is so much talk that makes you feel like you're guilty. People will just, utasikia tu mtu out of nowhere amekuuliza, na how come wewe ulipata hiyo kitu? And then you're like there, you're like, guy, how do I even answer that? How do you start explaining something to someone which even the doctor said that, some things just belong to God.
Yeah. We can't explain
them even
happen.
as doctors.
Yeah.
So now when someone says that, they make you even start doubting yourself. You start asking yourself, Ama, what did I do wrong? Ama, what did I do? You know, and there is nothing that is as bad as when you start blaming yourself, because it even makes that process of grieving harder. Because at the back of your mind, you're like, Ama, I should have done this. Ama, you know. So I think that was it was a tough season. It was a season that I actually would never wish any mother to pass through. It's hard. And the fact that support system, maybe it's people will support you at that time, and then after a few months they'll assume you are okay, but sometimes people are not okay, and sometimes you just left battling your own demons, because now you are at home, you're alone, you have all the time to have those thoughts of, maybe if I did this, what ifs. And I think that was hard. That was a very hard season for me. But through it all, I got to find out about support groups. You get to find out that you're not the only one. You get to listen to other people's stories, and you realize that you may have thought that you are alone, but there are people who have walked that journey. Yeah.
Okay. From what you've said, or rather what you've told us, it's clear that things took, started taking bad shape from the 37th week of your pregnancy. And what was your mental health like between now, from the 37th week to the time the baby passed on? What was your mental health like?
I was not okay, but the front I was putting up was that I was fine. But I think it's like deep down I felt that I could not handle it all, so it
was too much.
Yeah, I pushed it at the back of my head, and I remember when I wanted to think about it, I'd say,
you block it.
I just block it. And now I was not okay. I was not.
Did you have any coping mechanisms? Or blocking was all that you had?
That worked for me. It really
you just
worked for me. I just shut it down. I was very okay. You just look at me and say, she's fine. So I think that was how I coped. I just blocked it.
And is there a point in your life that you reached and you felt like, now I need to, to approach this head on? Because every time we postpone something, it means it is taking a pile on us, it's overwhelming us, and it will keep on, disturbing you, occurring once in a while, giving you moods, and, how did you get to a point of, now I need to confront this and let me maybe grieve and accept and now move from there?
I remember it reached a point now where I just used to sit and stare blankly. I would just sit and just go into my own world. And I think that was one of my very, very lowest moments, because I remember it reached a point where I thought that I can switch off my phone and just go. And I actually did. I switched it off. And then now I started asking myself, now where am I going to go? So I switched it back on. And now I think that really showed me that I'm not in a good space. Because when you're thinking about moving away from your support system.
Or now you are withdrawing.
Yeah, I wanted to withdraw. I just wanted to switch my phone off and just go and be alone. Now, when I switched off my phone, I was like, now where am I going to go? who am I going to stay with? So I actually rethought that thing. And I remember now that is when I felt that I need to talk to someone. And I remember there was a pastor who was telling my husband, your wife is not okay. And when she's ready to talk, you can come and see me. So that was the first person that came to mind, because that person, in me, I felt that that person
Understood
what I was going through. He could see through the facade that I was putting, that I'm strong, that I'm okay. And I remember I remember that is where we went. And I asked him very hard questions. I don't know if he can remember, but I remember I was asking him questions, and he was like, he even reached a point and just let me talk. Because I asked him, why are they telling me to move on? Pastor, why are they telling me that she was not my child? Why are they telling me that?
People can be insensitive.
I told him, why are they telling me that I need to be thankful that I have twins? Who told them I am not thankful? I am thankful that I have children.
But I still wanted more.
Yes, I am mourning for that one child that I lost. And he really talked to me, and I think that is when the healing started. And that is when I started to understand that some of these things people don't even say it just to hurt you. Those are just the words that we've normalized saying to people who have lost children. You'll just see, even when I did my research, I found the same lines that I was being told. It is well. If there is someone I even told, it is not well. It is not. And they were shocked. They just kept quiet. You'll just go and see someone and tell them, oh, you can get another child. Even if I get another one, it won't replace this one. Yeah. So I think that is now where my learning started. As I started healing, I started even learning about some of these things. I started even seeing how society minimizes losses associated to pregnancy and child loss. I started seeing things from a perspective that I never saw before. And I think that is what actually made me to want to become a counseling psychologist. I think that was the light at the end of the tunnel. But I have to say that journey was, sometimes I sit back and then I'm having conversations with God, and then I'm like, honey, God, you just had to pass me through that.
So that you can make me this.
So that you can make me who I am today. There was no other better way to make me do this. Yeah. But then, I think that they're just things that we cannot understand. We cannot fathom the ways of God. And I think that is just the beauty of life. That is just how He is. We get to understand that we can never know how He works.
God is mysterious.
Yeah.
In His ways.
Yeah.
So, guys, I hope you've listened to that so touching story about Grace. And, going forward, the people we are living around, we should learn not to minimize each other's pain. Because you as a mother, you get so attached. And in fact, even men, sometimes we think men are not affected, but they are. We get so attached, to our children, even before we release them to the world. So when we lose them, even if they are lost, while still in their mother's womb, or they are lost after birth, it's still painful. And we need to support these people as long as it takes. So the first session of this is going to end there. We ask you to look up for the second session. Don't forget to subscribe, to watch, to share, and like. Bye.